You thought joining the FBI would put you beyond the cartel's reach, until you realized they'd just moved the battlefield inside the bureau with you already wearing a badge. You don't join the FBI because you believe in justice. You join because someone already believes they own you. You're halfway through a cyber forensics graduate program when your cousin disappears on a Tuesday. Nobody calls it a kidnapping because nobody says the word out loud. He just doesn't show up to work. His phone goes straight to voicemail. His apartment door is unlocked with his keys still in the bowl by the sink, like he stepped out to take out the trash and never came back. Your aunt calls your mother that night. Your mother calls you. You tell her it's probably nothing because that's what you say when you don't have a version of reality that sounds survivable. 3 days later, he's sitting in your mother's kitchen drinking coffee with his left hand because the right one doesn't bend properly anymore. He doesn't say hello. He doesn't say anything. He slides a phone across the table like he's passing salt. The video plays automatically. A man you don't recognize explains that your cousin made a mistake involving someone else's shipment and someone else's money. He explains that mistakes can be corrected in different currencies. Blood. Or access. He says your name before you've told him what it is. They already know you're applying to federal agencies in 2 years. They know your internship track. Your immigration paperwork timeline. The mortgage your parents took out on a house they still think is a miracle. They don't need anything from you now. They need you later. You ask what happens if you say no. The man on the screen doesn't answer. He asks your cousin to smile for the camera. He tries. One side of his face doesn't move. You realize then that this isn't recruitment. It's scheduling. From that moment on, every exam you pass isn't ambition. It's installation. Every background check you clear is another door opening from the inside. You pass the polygraph at Quantico because the question isn't, have you ever lied to a federal investigator? The question is, do you believe you are loyal to the United States? And you do. You just don't believe it's a relevant variable anymore. Your first assignment isn't counterterrorism. It's financial crimes. You sit in a gray cubicle in a field office that smells like burnt coffee and printer toner, tracing wire transfers through 5 countries and back into a Delaware LLC registered to a mailbox behind a vape shop that also sells phone chargers and lottery tickets. This is what dismantling criminal empires looks like from the inside. Spreadsheets. You become the guy who follows money through shell companies that only exist on paper. You learn which banks freeze accounts after the second suspicious activity report instead of the 5th. Which subpoenas take 3 days. Which joint task forces actually coordinate across state lines and which ones pretend to. The Bureau thinks you're dismantling cartels. The cartel thinks you're auditing their weaknesses. Because every case file you read becomes intelligence. You never download anything you're not authorized to access. You never forward an email outside the system. You remember. Which agents move too fast and burn surveillance. Which assistant U.S. attorneys reject warrants over formatting errors. Which field officers log evidence manually because their case software hasn't been updated since 2011. You build a map. Not of cartel operations. Of the people hunting them. Your handler doesn't call often. When he does, it's never about shipments or routes or names. It's about infrastructure. How long does a financial clearance request take if filed after hours? Which field offices share metadata automatically? Does DEA access your case system in real time or on delay? Questions that sound like curiosity. But they're logistics. You answer carefully. Your performance reviews are perfect. You get commendations for helping freeze accounts tied to trafficking networks in El Paso. Your mother frames the certificate. You stand in her living room smiling for photos, knowing that somewhere, someone is adjusting routing patterns based on the weaknesses you identified during that investigation. Your handler finally calls with something specific. Not a burner phone. A Teams meeting. A joint DEA, FBI raid is scheduled for Friday at 4:30 in Laredo. Your task is to delay a financial clearance request by 6 hours. That's it. Friday morning, the target house is empty. By noon, Internal Affairs is requesting interviews. You answer everything honestly. And somewhere between 4:30 and 10:30 that morning, 4 men walk out of a house that federal agents would have stormed while they were sleeping. You are now operational. They don't ask you to leak files. They ask you to let friction exist. A surveillance van assignment list for a port of entry operation in Brownsville. A bank subpoena timeline tied to an import company in San Diego. A protected witness relocation schedule connected to a trafficking case in Juarez. Administrative details. Movement windows. Routing paths. You never say yes. You never say no. You just don't correct a routing code that sends a request to the wrong field office. You don't flag a discrepancy in a witness transfer window that overlaps with a weekend shift change. You tell yourself you're not participating. You're letting the system run the way it already wants to run. Backlog exists. Delays happen. Paperwork moves slower than people do. 3 weeks later, a witness is killed in Juarez. You weren't there. You didn't forward a message. You didn't make a call. You didn't fire a weapon. You just didn't fix an error that would have moved the transfer up by 48 hours. You find out the same way everyone else does. Internal bulletin. Subject line. Protected witness fatality, cross-border coordination failure. There's a photo attached. You close it without looking. 2 weeks after that, your supervisor calls you into his office. You assume it's about the Laredo delay. Or the backlog in clearance requests. Instead, he hands you a promotion packet. Joint Task Force Liaison. More access. More case visibility. More systems. You thank him. He tells you you've earned it. Your handler texts you that night. No greeting. No explanation. Just one word. Good. You start sleeping less. Not because you're afraid of getting caught. Because your brain keeps running the same calculation over and over. You didn't pull a trigger. You didn't open a door. You moved nothing except timestamps. And someone still died. The loyalty test isn't a phone call. It's a case file. Open investigation. Joint FBI DEA task force. Financial pipeline tied to a non-profit operating out of Houston. On paper, it's humanitarian aid. Disaster relief. Community outreach. In reality, it's a shell moving fentanyl profits across the border every 72 hours. The case belongs to Daniel Reyes. Your partner for the last 18 months. He sits 2 cubicles down from you and drinks the same gas station coffee every morning like it's punishment. He's the one who covered your shift when your mother had surgery. The one who vouched for your promotion when Internal Affairs asked about the Laredo delay. He trusts you. He's going to make SAC in 5 years. Deleting this investigation won't erase everything. But it will collapse the timeline. Invalidate the warrants. Force the task force to rebuild probable cause from scratch. Your handler sends a photo. Your parents' house. Taken from across the street. No threats. No demands. Just context. You stay at your desk until 9:12 p.m. The office is empty enough that you can hear the HVAC cycle on and off every 4 minutes. Daniel leaves at 8:47. Says goodnight. Tells you not to work too late. You open the case management system and pull up the file. 6 months of surveillance logs. Subpoenaed bank records. Wiretap transcripts. All of it sitting in a directory you have clearance to access. Your cursor hovers over the system prompt. Are you sure you want to permanently delete this case file? Up until now, everything you've done has been passive. Delay this. Reroute that. Let friction exist. This is different. You click. Yes. 2 weeks later, Daniel's task force gets reassigned. Your parents' street stays quiet. Your promotion comes through the following month. That's a wrap. The story is fiction, but the infiltration is real. And somewhere right now, someone wearing a badge is realizing the war they thought they were fighting has already moved inside the building. If this made you think, drop a comment. Subscribe for more.